Add fractions. Let's see how to add something as complicated as this. One of the first things that you need to know while adding fractions is how to find the LCM, because the LCM of the two denominators is what's going to be the common denominator. So finding LCM is of utmost importance. And I've produced a video on how to do that. If you want, please watch it. Okay. So to illustrate the process, I'll start with a simple example. Suppose we want to add 5, 6 plus 7, 8. The first step is write a equal sign and put a big bar right next to it, like this. Okay. Make sure that you line things up well because, we want things to look pretty. And then under the big bar, write the LCM of the two denominators. 6 and 8, the least common multiple of those two is 24, right? So write down 24. And the next step is take the common denominator and divide that by the first denominator. What? So we have a common denominator to be 24 and divide that by the first denominator, 6. Do this on the side. Why? Because if the terms are really complicated, you cannot do this in your head. Another thing I want to say is I could have phrased this as 6 goes into 24 how many times? On purpose, I didn't do that because when you're dealing with complicated terms, that would be much harder to execute. So go to the side, figure out common denominator over the first denominator, and turns out to be 4, right? So take that quotient 4 and multiply by the first numerator. That is because we divided the common denominator by the first denominator. This time the quotient should be multiplied by the first numerator. So we have 4 times 5. And then we are adding, so put a plus sign to indicate addition. After that, you do the same thing with the second fraction, that is common denominator over the second denominator, that is 24 over 8. Do that to the side, and that equals 3. Take the quotient 3, multiply by the second numerator, which is 7. So 3 times 7. That's it. Now, of course, all you need to do is just simple arithmetic. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 7 times 3 is 21. 20 plus 21 over 24, and that is 41 over 24, right? That's it. Now, what if you have something complicated like this? The beauty is the idea is still the same. What is that? We need to figure out the LCM of the two denominators. I'm throwing in all the steps that as a reminder of what exactly we need to do. So the first step is put a big bar, equal sign and a big bar, and then the LCM of the two denominators. I'll say that the LCM is 245 a cube b square. How did I get that? The first thing you need to do is look at the numbers 35 and 49. The LCM of those two things turns out to be 245. Then you look at a cube and a to the negative 3. For that, you have to pick the bigger exponent. So a cube has a bigger exponent 3 compared to negative 3 in the other one. So pick a cube. Similarly, when you compare b to the negative 4 and b square has a bigger exponent 2. So make it b square, right? And after that, the process is still the same. That is common denominator over the first denominator. Now, do you see why I do not phrase it as boys and girls? 35 a cube b to the negative 4 goes into 245 a cube b square how many times? That would be impossible to figure out in head. So that's why get into the habit of going to the side and writing down common denominator over the first denominator or the second denominator, as the case may be. Okay? 35 goes into 245 7 times. and a cube cancel. B square over b to the negative 4. What in the world is b square over b to the negative 4? So for this, I'm asking you to recall that x to the m over x to the n is x to the m minus n. Okay? So that means b square over b to the negative 4 would be b to the 2 minus negative 4, which is b to the 2 plus 4, and 2 plus 4 is 6, so we get b to the 6. So eventually, this quotient is just simply 7 times b to the 6. Take that quotient and multiply by the first numerator 8, and because we are adding fractions, put a plus sign. Okay. Then you do the same thing with the second fraction, that is, take the common denominator over the second denominator, and 49 goes into 245 5 times. B square and b square divide into each other to get 1. And a cube over a to the negative 3, like I said before, would be a to the 3 minus negative 3, which is a to the 3 plus 3, which is equal to a to the 6. Right? Well, what's the next step? Take that 5a to the 6 and multiply by the second numerator 6. There you go. And after that, simple arithmetic. 8 times 7 is 56, 56b to the 6, plus 6 times 5 is 30, 30a to the 6 over 245a cubed b squared. Let me give you one last warning. Some of you would be tempted to simplify this. You see that, hey, there's a b square in the bottom and a b to the 6 on the top, man. I'm going to reduce that to b to the 4, right? B to the 6 over b square is b to the 4. Do not do that. Similarly, don't say a cube goes into a to the 6 a cube times. Do not do that. That is because we have an addition going on the top, right? When you have an addition going on, that means the denominator is what is called a common denominator to both those terms. If that is the case, you try to cancel b square with the b to the 6, the other term 38 to the 6 is going to say, hey, hey, wait a minute. He's my denominator too. How dare you take him away from me? Right? That's the idea. So that's it. As simple as that.